Hello, and welcome to Underlords Universe, where we chit chat about all kinds of stuff that inspires us to create our own stuff. In this case, it's Black Sabbath. And today we have a friend of ours, Travis. Hi, Travis.
Hi, Travis.
Yeah, we're going to go through and discuss and rank the first 6 Black Sabbath albums using a system that we devised to try to keep us objective. As objective as possible. And so how we're going to do this is we're going to first start off with a little introduction from Travis. He's got an interesting little story about how he got into Black Sabbath. And then we're going to jump through each album and discuss highs and lows. And at the very end, we will rank them and compare our rankings. And at the very, very end, we might give a little shout out to some of our own stuff that we do. So with that, Travis, how did you get into Black Sabbath?
Well, you said it was interesting. I don't know if it's that interesting, but I think it kind of it's in relation to what we're talking about. It's kind of all right. I'm already losing track of what I'm going to say. It's early, and
it is. It's like
this is not a very metal time to be doing this. It's 9 a.m. Anyway. All right. Well, long story short, I was in middle school and, I was taking guitar lessons. I wanted to play guitar, but I didn't know what I liked, what kind of music I would, was into. I listened to stuff on the radio. I'm like, yeah, that's kind of cool. I'd see kids wearing band shirts at school, and then I'd hear some of their stuff. I'm like, well, that song's cool, but that's not. I kind of didn't know where, I fit in. So I was taking guitar lessons, and my guitar teacher, he's like, so, we've done like the scales, techniques, this and that. Like, is there any like band you just want to like learn how to play one of their songs? Like, I don't know. He's like, well, what do you listen to? I was like, I don't know. Whatever's on the radio, I guess. Like, well, have you ever heard of Black Sabbath? And I was like, I think so. Yeah, don't they have a song called like Iron Man or something? And the only way I even knew about that was not because I'd heard the song, but because Beavis and Butthead used to segue, segments going da 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 da.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Well, yeah, I could teach you that one." And so I actually learned how to play the song Iron Man before I'd ever even heard it. And then he started telling me, because Black Sabbath was one of his favorite bands, and he's like, "Oh yeah, there's a song called Paranoid, and there's this and there's that." He's like, and then they got a song called Black Sabbath too. And I'm like, wait, what? He's like, yeah, Black Sabbath has a song called Black Sabbath. I'm like, that doesn't make sense. You don't name songs after bands. Like, that's like, how do you? He's like, yeah, the album's called Black Sabbath too. And I'm like, what? And he teaches me that one. Now, obviously, I'm not playing it very well. I've never heard it or anything. And I'm going, I really need to check out this band, So I'm at Walmart, and I see this right here. I don't know if you can see that very well. Mm-hmm. And I look at it and I'm going, wait a minute, this has all the songs he told me about, and I didn't realize it was a greatest hits or anything like that. So I bought it. I ran home. I first put on Iron Man. I didn't even put on Black Sabbath, which is the first one, because I wanted to hear that, because that was the one I was sort of familiar with. And then I go back and I was like, all right, I got to hear this Black Sabbath song. And then the thunder is, I don't know about you guys, but I love thunderstorms. Mm-hmm. Not only that, when I used to go to the stores, I don't know if you remember this, they'd always have those little displays. It's like sounds of nature, and you could press a button, which sound of nature.
Yeah.
Trickling stream. Well, I'd always go for the thunderstorm. And I'm going, what is this? And then all of a sudden, just the guitar tone, like I've never heard before. In the same way with Iron Man, which I listened to before that. In those chords. And I'm going, what? Like, my mind is blown. And honestly, my life did kind of change at that point. I mean, it's not like, oh, everything's clear, I understand the universe, but I'm going, this is what I want to hear more of. It's so weird that I wanted to listen to music, and I get, my sister would get me like Crash Test Dummies for my birthday one year. I was like, oh, this one song's kind of funny, that's cool, but then I hear Black Sabbath and I'm like, this is it. And so from that point forward, Black Sabbath became my favorite band of all time. It still is. I've listened to every second of every Sabbath album probably a million times. So the whole rating system you've devised, I respect. It's, as objective as you can get. But Brian and I have talked about how you know, I can't really do the rating system because various things maybe I'll get into later. But if there's one band I think I can confidently rate, it would be Black Sabbath. And so that song Black Sabbath just blew me away so much. I was like, I got to get this crazy, you know, this album that is called Black Sabbath, that has a song called Black Sabbath by the band Black Sabbath. And I see the cover and I'm just like, the just emotional roller coaster keeps going. I'm like, what is this? And to this day, I still feel that it is the greatest album cover of all time.
Now,
And
just to clarify here, you're how old?
I am 41.
No, when this happens.
Oh, mid 90s would have been 96. I mean, I've got the date exactly, so I would have been, let me do the math, 13.
Okay, so you're 13. It's the mid 90s, and Black Sabbath, the album came out in 71,
1970.
70,
Friday the 13th.
Yeah,
February
right.
13th.
Was it February 13th?
February
Yeah.
13th, 1970.
Okay.
And to a guy like me, who's, you know, my friends are listening to Metallica, they're, you know, on MTV constantly, and I find this band that's 25 years old, which is ancient. 25
Yeah,
is
right.
ancient. And I'm like, I don't care. I have heard something that I've never heard before, and quite frankly, I've never heard since. You know, so being that I had very little money at the time, I had a paper route, but it was a 1 day a week paper route. So I got paid like $50 a month, and my parents made me put half of that away. I had to very carefully choose what CD I was going to buy next, and obviously no Spotify, no YouTube, no downloading or anything. And I was just like, even though I already had two of the songs, I think two of the songs, I'm like, I got to get this one because I need to hear that album in its entirety. I got to hear exactly, you know, what was going on. And to me, Black Sabbath is a 5-star song. I don't know if you want to go into it right now, but Black Sabbath is sort of that's the height that every other song needs to strive to at least be in the realm of. But that is, to me, a perfect song, a 5-star song, which, you know, is the most unique, original thing I think I've ever heard to this day in 2023.
It's a good segue. You know, we might as well just take that, go into the first album then. So, you know, and I think that goes to show also, like, how and when a person gets into a band really has an impact on the way they view things. I can't tell you how and when I got into Sabbath. I don't know. I can't remember. I do think I remember seeing the album covers for like Born Again and Mob Rules in the record stores. And that's maybe my first impression of Sabbath, was just those album covers. But I don't know. I have no recollection the first time I listened to the first Sabbath album. Brent, do you remember it all when you?
Nope. No recollection at all.
Oh,
just know that I liked him. Yeah, I mean, I don't even know what album I heard first or what song I heard first. So we come at it from a bit of a different angle. We might have some of the same results, but we don't have that. Travis's story is pretty cool. I can't remember when I first heard or what I heard.
Yeah, and the funny thing to me is that Forbidden would have been kind of the newest album in the mid '90s, around '95 or whatever, which is, you know,
once we get to that, it's kind of funny because I actually have it documented almost the date that I bought every single album because I was that obsessed. I was also at the time a stupid teenager. I was like, oh, Ozzy's the greatest. You know, Ozzy is like the secret sauce to this band. And to this day, you know, I do respect his voice, his contributions. As we go through this, you know, my kind of respect has diminished for Ozzy. I'll always respect his completely unique, eerie voice. But I was like, any Sabbath without Ozzy, I don't want anything to do with. And then I did later that year find Forbidden in the $2 bin with a little notch taken out of the side. And I'm going, well, dude, I can't pass. I mean, it says Black Sabbath, and I hate all Black Sabbath without Ozzy, but I'll buy this. And unfortunately, it did. I mean, we can get into that later. It didn't really connect with me, but I'm just like, well, at least I have it to sort of understand the progression a little more. Later on, my opinion completely changed. it's kind of funny because So Forbidden was actually like maybe the third or fourth Black Sabbath CD I actually bought.
Okay, so let's go ahead and get into this. The first Sabbath album, like you guys said, it came out on Friday, February 13th, 1970.
Yeah.
And you know, if anybody's gotten this far into this and they're sticking with it, they're obviously a Sabbath fan, or they're extraordinarily bored, or maybe we're just that entertaining. I don't know. You know, so Trev, this is your first go around with us on this, and we, you know, we can't go through every single song and take forever, but we kind of try to focus on highs and lows. And for me, I think The Wizard is the high point on this album. I actually disagree about the title track, the title track Black Sabbath. I know, blow your mind. So you give that song a 5-star, right?
Yeah. By the way, I quit this podcast. Have fun doing that.
I only gave the song Black Sabbath 3.5 stars.
Okay.
I know it's I think it's better than mediocre. I like it. I don't skip it. I think it's iconic, but yeah, you know, it's like, okay, so there's the little devil's triad in there, and you know, it's like, it's cool. See, I like it. But
to me,
the Wizard.
I love theatrics so much that, I mean, I can understand your point of view.
Mm-hmm.
As wrong as it is, I can understand. But like, you know, I was to bring completely unrelated into it. I was listening to a Smashing Pumpkins album in 2008, and I was telling my girlfriend at the time, I was like, "Oh, I love this particular song. It's called Bleeding the Orchid." She goes, "I knew that would be your favorite." How did you know that would be my favorite? She goes, "This is the most theatrical song on the album." Mm-hmm. Now, it's not theatrical anywhere near Black Sabbath, but I go, "Oh yeah." Because I do, you know, King Diamond is one of my other favorites.
Yeah.
So I can understand why someone, you know, it's not something you want to put on at a party. Just be like, guys, you know, you want to put that on when you're, not that I've ever done this, but if you're going to sacrifice, you know, make a human sacrifice. Totally haven't done it.
I think the coolest thing about the song Black Sabbath, honestly, is the second half of it. I like that actually better. However, except the very, very beginning, like you said, with the thunderstorm and you know, when the initial chords come in, and frankly, live, when you're there, better. I mean, that's just, it's ominous. So I think context helps in this context as far as the album goes. I love the way it opens. I love that. And then I kind of go, oh yeah, it's cool. But my favorite song on the album is The Wizard. I think the low point on the album is actually the last kind of suite of A Bit of Finger, Sleeping Village, and Warning. That to me, that's kind of like, nah, okay, it's okay, it's fine. I don't skip over it or anything, but you know, it's there.
Well, our viewpoints on this album are almost completely reversed, because The Wizard to me is the low point.
Oh, no kidding.
After my, you know, this big, you know, epic, if you can call it that, Black Sabbath, and then after that, you know, Misty Morning, you know, yeah. And I'm like, okay, you know, and I actually have The Wizard rated a 2.0, which, you know, I kind of reserve for, like, it's below average. I guess I don't hate it. It's almost impossible to hate any song, although there are a couple in Sabbath's catalog. But this one, I'm just like, I could definitely leave it. If I never heard it again, I would not feel like I was missing out on something. And to make matters weirder, the last song, Bit of Finger, Sleeping Village, Warning, I got that as a 4.5. I actually had to talk myself down from the ledge. I had that as a 5.0 first, and I'm like, all right, you can't give everything a 5.0, even though Black Sabbath is like the greatest band of all time. But that also has that theatricality to me, you know, Sleeping Village, Cockerel's Cry, you know. I do think it meanders a little bit, like with that guitar solo. And Tony Iommi has really upped his game since 1970 as far as leads. I don't think back then he was a very good lead guitarist. So it's kind of like, well, you didn't really need to do that for 5 minutes, Tony. But if you did, it was kind of, you know, since he did, I definitely like the segue, as, you know, he at the end of the solo, he holds out the note, all of a sudden it comes back into Warning and stuff. Especially that guitar tone, it just hits me, you know. So yeah, I've got that one as a 4.5, and then also the other epic, so to speak, Wasp, Behind the Wall Sleep, basically NIB. I got that as a 4.5 too.
Brent,
So
what
go
are
ahead.
your highs and lows?
For me, the high points are Black Sabbath and The Wizard. I gave each of those a 5. I agree that Wicked World and Bit of Finger, the low points on the record, I gave those little 3 apiece. I love the way the album starts. I would say that this is one of the most impactful and influential records in music history. And no doubt it established a genre of music. You know, I wasn't alive when this record came out, but no doubt when people heard the opening of the title track for the first time, nobody had ever done anything like that before. And like Travis said, nobody's really done anything since then. So this album really set a standard, and really did establish a genre. I don't really know. You know, people will say, "Oh, the Black Sabbath is the first real heavy metal record." I wouldn't know that I would go that far because I think people disagree and have different opinions on what metal really is. But it established a sound, and there's been nothing like it ever since. And so for me, this album is incredibly good. I don't really say there's anything weak on the record because for me, if you give something 3 stars, it's still a good song. So there's nothing subpar on this record. And the first 2 songs out of the gate, just they're very, very good. And to what you said about hearing Black Sabbath, the song live, I remember, you know, when we went to see them on the Cross Purposes tour in Minnesota, hearing that song live was an amazing experience. I was like, okay, this song has to be played at every of course it is, at every Black Sabbath show. It's that good.
Yeah.
So I give it 5 stars. I love The Wizard. I love the title track. You know, I love the thunder, you know, in the beginning of the album so much that we even did that on one of our songs. It's kind of a little tip of the hat. Love Black Sabbath. Great album. Very impactful, very influential.
The last thing I want to say about it is I kind of actively dislike harmonica.
Oh,
And
I like it.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of harmonica, that and bagpipes. And but you know, of course, the Wizard has harmonica on it, and for some reason it just works for me. The other thing I like about the Wizard is that Blue Oyster Cult basically tried to rip it off with Cities on Flame, and I love both those songs because you can hear such similarities to them. But that's maybe a conversation for another day.
Yeah.
So anyway, you want to move on to Paranoid, or Travis, do you want to have a final thought on your end about the debut?
Well, did you say what Wicked World rated?
I give Wicked World a 3.
I gave it a 3.
I think it's a good song. You know, I don't think it's not mind blowing, but I like it.
I gave it a 2.5. It's right down the middle. I really don't like the intro, but then once it gets to that heavy riff, you know,
Yeah.
I'm into that. So that's definitely kind of a mid-tier song in my mind, which so it's kind of funny that this one, as legendary as I feel the band is and the album is and all that, it actually does have sort of highs and lows. So I was kind of surprised it rated as low as it did for me. Do you guys say your overall rating for it right now, or do you wait until the end?
Oh, we can
wait till the end.
overall rating. I gave it.
I'm gonna wait until. Okay.
Okay.
I'll wait till the end.
We can wait. We can wait. Okay. I'll go either way.
I'll wait. Let's hit Paranoid.
Paranoid. Yeah. The low point, and this is going to sound like I'm just coming across as like a contrarian naysayer, you know, oh, I like the deep cuts more than the popular songs. But honestly, I just really think I don't really mind the song Paranoid. It's just like, it's just there. I've heard it a billion times. I give the song 2.5 stars. It's my low point on the whole album. I like everything else on Paranoid better than Paranoid. So again, it's not to knock the song, but I would say that Electric Funeral and Fairies Wear Boots are my top songs on the album Paranoid. I give those 4s. No, I gave nothing a 5 on this album.
I did.
What'd you give?
You want to know
yeah, what'd you give a 5?
I give Planet Caravan a 5.
Really?
The song's amazing, yes. And I agree that War Pigs, Paranoid, not my favorite Sabbath songs. I give each of them 3 stars. The low points for me on this record are Electric Funeral and Rat Salad. Electric Funeral's
Really?
just Electric Funeral's just kind of lame. It doesn't really do a whole lot for me. It doesn't move around too much.
Ah.
It's just not. It's just
I
not
don't
one of my
know, man.
favorites. It's
Electric
not one of the chorus is kind of cheesy. I love Fairies Wear Boots,
Now-
so I give that 4. But for me, the high points are Planet Caravan, Fairies Wear Boots, and then low points Electric Funeral and Rat Salad's
Okay.
a throwaway.
Okay,
2.5.
look. We obviously agree on Fairies Wear Boots, and that's fine. But Electric Funeral, you mentioned cheese. Let's recognize that in the world of cheese, there are some really exquisite cheeses out there. So
I understand that. This is not one of them.
I don't know, Travis, jump in here.
And one more thing about Planet Caravan, if I might.
Okay.
The reason that song for me is so good is it's just so different. It's just, again, there's nobody's done anything like that even really since then. So such a cool song, such a cool trippy, spacey song, which is so contrasts a lot of the other heavy, hard-hitting stuff that they did. I think that was the first example of that, and they would do that again throughout their career. But I think that song just works. It's just good. It's just a good song.
Well, so the good news, Brian, is I think I thought our friendship was over after the discussion of the first album, but I think we're friends again. And Paranoid, I actually have rated even lower than the song. I have that as a 1.5.
Wow.
So none of us really like it all that much.
Yeah, and also let me say this. So after we sold our soul for rock and roll, and that has so many songs from Paranoid. As I began my journey in getting every Sabbath album, Paranoid was the last Sabbath album I got. I didn't get that for another 7 years after I got We Sold Our Soul and Black Sabbath, because I'm looking at the track list and I'm going, I already have like over half these on We Sold Our Soul, so I don't even need that.
Mm-hmm.
And and the thing is, I'm just like, why does everybody talk about this album? It's like, now when once again, I gotta reel it back a little bit and say, okay, I do think that first of all, I got Iron Man as a 5.0. I think it's one of the greatest guitar riffs ever. The journey through the song with the ending part. I was like, do I really want to give that a 5? Well, the answer is yes. So that's the only 5 I had. War Pigs I gave a 4.5, and I would have given it a 5. I think that is one of the definitive songs. I also love the subject matter, not to get political, but I'm thankful we have a song like that. I'm not that half a star I had to deduct for rhyming masses with masses. Like, and the thing is, they had other lyrics.
Yeah.
Generals gathered in their masses, bodies burning in red ashes was the original lyric. Why did they change it to witches, just like witches at black masses? You could have rhymed ashes with masses, and it would have been a 5.0. Do they realize what they did? They, their whole career was screwed after that.
Right.
But then I got Electric Funeral as a 4.0. I got Hand of Doom as a 4.
I give it a 3.5.
I got Caravan as a 4. So those were songs that I never really heard. I've heard them in one way or another. I think Ozman Cometh had some demos on that one of like Hand of Doom and stuff. Fairies Wear Boots, I had to give a 2.5 though.
Really? So you agree with, or no, Brent, you gave Fairies Wear Boots a pretty high score, right?
I gave it a 4. Yeah.
Yeah, I gave it a 4. So you're a little lower on the.
I just Fairies Wear Boots and Dancing with a Dwarf, and it's like you're not. The lyrics definitely.
So you don't get an image in your mind of Tony Iommi like dancing around in little fairy boots or anything?
Well, it was the funny thing is it was they made that after they were jumped by a bunch of skinheads who they were referring to as fairies.
Oh, that's right. I'd forgotten about that. I've read that. Yeah.
So with me, I envisioned some skinheads wearing these boots, and then a dwarf jumps in, and I don't know. I do think the music is great. I love the melodies. But yeah, the lyrics definitely deducted a little bit. But and then Rat Salad, which may have actually been the last Sabbath song I ever heard, because I had heard Hand of Doom, Electric Funeral, and Planet Caravan in some fashion. I'd never actually heard Rat Salad until I finally got the album 7 years after my journey began. And I'm like, oh, this is their worst. Well, this is one of their worst instrumentals. We'll get to their worst. Actually,
what did you give it?
I gave it a 1.5.
Okay, wow.
And I actually,
so you're actually harder on some of the Sabbath stuff than I am.
Yeah, I just think this, in a lot of ways, this album is a little overrated, which is funny because if it wasn't for Paranoid and Rat Salad, this would actually be pretty highly rated in my mind. It's, everybody's, oh, Paranoid. And I'm going, Paranoid is the least representative song in their entire catalog in my mind. Because you got War Pigs, which is 8 minutes long. You got Iron Man, which is 6 minutes. You got Black Sabbath singing about the devil, and then Paranoid's like, hey, a nice succinct 2 minutes and 48 seconds for you. And it's like, no other Black Sabbath song is that short. And everyone's like, oh, I love Paranoid. It's like,
it does kind of stick out a little bit as an outlier, but you guys want to segue to Master of Reality? Because to me, this is a leap forward to me. Now, I didn't give any 5s to any song on Master of Reality. However, I gave quite a few 4.5s.
Okay.
And like, to me, After Forever is a 4.5. And on a good day, I might even give it a 5. Children of the Grave and Into the Void. Those 3 are my favorites. After Forever, Children of the Grave, and Into the Void. And I also think Orchid's a really cool piece. I think, Embryo is really cool. Sweet Leaf is classic. Lord of this World, Solitude. I mean, nothing to me is subpar on this record at all. But I mean, those 3, After Forever, Children of the Grave, Into the Void, really, really strong. I think they really just jumped forward from the 2 previous albums with those, and that's my assessment. Brent, you want to?
Yeah, I agree. For sonically, I think of the first 3 Sabbath records, this one is the best sound. I mean, the guitar tones are just incredible. Like you said, there's not a weak song on this record. So for me, the high points are Children of the Grave and Into the Void. I gave both of those 5 stars.
Yes.
I gave After Forever 4.5. Sweet Leaf, Lord of this World, Solitude, all 4s. Orchid a 3.5. Embryo 3. So there's nothing on this record that's subpar. This album's amazing. It's probably, once we get to the end of doing all these Sabbath records, I won't be surprised if it's in my top 5, top 6. It's just that good. It is a quantum leap forward from Paranoid.
I think the cool thing about having a band with such an extensive catalog that changes a bit over time is, you have an album like this that's like, this is a great record. This is going to be top 5. And it's like, well, with so many albums, it'll be interesting to see really where it does land.
No weak links. No. Tony, this is like, really, I don't want to say it's them at their zenith with Ozzy, but they're just shooting on this trajectory. We'll see whether they maintain that with Volume 4, but this album it's definitely a classic, and of the first 3, it's definitely my favorite.
Yeah,
the first 3 that we.
Travis.
I was surprised it rated as high as it did for me. Not that I was like, yeah, I don't like this one, but it's just, I don't know. I guess I never gave it credit for how good it was. I do think Sweet Leaf is the weakest, and that's mainly because at the end, the little the second part of the song was like, and I'm just sort of like, okay, are you high on pot or on crack? Because, but anyway, After Forever 4.5. That's one of those where I'm going, it could have been a 5. I just gave it a 4.5. As far as the instrumentals go, with those being, not as representative of Sabbath's whole catalog, the way I decided to rate them was either, okay, on their own, are they amazing? Like, would I put this on just for fun? And with Embryo, I wouldn't. But the second part of that rating is how well does it segue into the next song? With Embryo, I think it's a pretty good segue into Children of the Grave, but I could also do without it. I did give it a 3.0 just because I don't have any sort of problem with it, but it is definitely one of the weakest instrumentals. Children of the Grave, 5. I mean, that is you know, I can understand why people wouldn't like Black Sabbath as much, but Children of the Grave, that's one that I think has to be played at every Black Sabbath show. Whether it's Ozzy, Tony Martin, Dio, it is amazing with anybody on vocals. The riff towards the end, one of the heaviest things ever, the bow, bow, now, bow, now. When I heard that, you know, I'm going, it doesn't get heavier than that. Orchid, I think, on its own is beautiful, and it also segues pretty well into Lord of this World. So I gave it a 4.0. Lord of this World, I gave a 4.0 as well. Solitude, I gave a 4.5.
That's great. It's a great song.
Beautiful. It's eerie. It paints a picture of. Now I envision fairies more with Solitude than I do with Fairies Wear Boots. So, and then Into the Void is. Why don't people talk about that more? That is it.
Oh God, I know, right? What a riff!
I'd say that's one of Tony's, if not, it's one of his best riffs, if not the best riff.
Yeah, and several riffs in that, because I mean,
yeah, the whole. I'm talking about the whole song. It's like a riff-orama. It's like the whole. Pick one.
Now, I mentioned guitar lessons earlier, and like I haven't played in years. I was never that good. But Into the Void, and this might actually sound like a backhanded compliment, but Into the Void is one that I can still pick up a guitar, even though I haven't played in years, and play that from memory and play it, you know, pretty well, even including the guitar solo. I think I could never do guitar solos or anything, which you might think it's like, oh, it's that simple. This, you know, shitty guitar player could play it. It's like, no, it's just
it's not.
Something about it that makes it just, my hands just know what to play with that. And it's fun, and it's, I agree with everything that you guys said about that.
My thing about this record that's really difficult is the top songs, like Into the Void, because like Brent said, you know, or both of you guys said, that riff, I mean, that's a 5-star riff, period. Does that make it a 5-star song? And that's really where I kind of come in. It's like, okay, the other parts of the song, it's not, to me, it's not a solid 5 straight through every second of it. And it's like, does that mean that it's not a 5-star song? No. You know, like on a good day, I might be like, hell yeah, that's 5. On the other hand, it's like, well, would I change anything? And the answer is no. I mean, the other parts of the songs help make the main riff what it is. You know, if you just had, you know, the main riff over and over forever, it wouldn't go anywhere. So I found it really difficult. So I gave it 4.5. That's where I ended up coming down on that. But I think this is easily the best of the first 3 records.
I agree.
Yeah. And I mean, well, we're not talking about our ratings, but yeah, this one definitely rated very high when I averaged it all out, which I was surprised about. So
yeah. Now I can't say the same for Volume 4. I have tried. I know there are people out there that say, you know, Volume 4, it's so great, it's so classic, it's, you know, whatever. And I kind of wonder, is that because they're huge Ozzy fans and Ozzy's on the cover? Because it's like, I don't hear it. I mean, I gave nothing on this. Well, excuse me, that's not true. I think there's one really great song on this record.
I know what it is. Can I tell you? I'm going to guess what it is.
What is it?
It's Supernaut. It's Supernaut.
Absolutely. Yes. Supernaut is by far the best song on this record.
Not even close.
The Bill Ward's percussion, his percussion breakdown in Supernaut is awesome. That is so great. That's the high point. I also think Tomorrow's Dream is a really good song, but I hate changes. I cannot stand changes.
Yes.
I'm surprised I gave it 1 star. Like maybe I should have given it. What did you give it?
I gave it 1 star, and only did that because the only reason I gave it 1 star was because there's some background like keyboards, not the piano, that I like.
Mellotron. There's Mellotron.
That's what I like. That gave it the 1 star. If that wasn't there, it'd get a 0.
Yeah, I can see that.
Don't like that song.
I frankly think the piano parts themselves just sound like elementary, like
elementary.
Just figured out how to play something, and
to me, it sounds like it's like, oh, hey, Tony Iommi can play the piano. Can you play the piano? Yeah, I can kind of play the piano. I can play this riff.
Yeah,
riff. It's like, no, it sounds like someone that's like, I can kind of play the piano.
Right. I completely agree with that. And then to go from there into FX, it's like, come on.
Greatest instrumental in Sabbath history, FX.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's like you put that's the sound of one of their like cross necklaces just being like banging against the strings and then putting like delay on it. And it's like
you can tell,
you're gonna call that a track?
and you can tell they were either completely high when they did that, or, and there is some truth to that once you read, I can't remember, it's Geezer's book or whatever, where they had to pad out albums because the record company's like, no, you need 10 tracks on this one. They go, all right, here's a track. And it's just them just clanging stuff together, you know?
Yeah. It's, I think that, so to me, I mean, side one, I mean, Wheels of Confusion is I think the first half of it's kind of boring, but it's okay. It's decent. And then Tomorrow's Dream, it kind of goes up for there, and then it just it just nosedives bad until you get to Supernaut, which is like, you know, Supernaut's great, and then the rest of the album is just kind of like meh. It's okay. I mean, I think the last half of Under the Sun is good. I don't really care much for the first part of it.
But it doesn't, in my opinion, it doesn't fit with the first half. It's literally like, he's like, hey, check out this heavy riff. Oh, that's a cool heavy riff. Check out this kind of melodic, like, is that the one where it's kind of got a galloping, or the bam, down, down, bam, down, yeah, like this finale, this sort, but they don't really fit in my mind.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah. So I don't understand the love for this record, to be honest with you, but I don't know. That's all I got to say. I'm not going to say anything else about that. Brent, anything else you want to throw in there on Volume 4?
No, I'm just going to say that I gave Supernaut 4.5 stars. I wanted to give it 5. I couldn't, possibly because it's on this record with a lot of duds. I've tried for years to like this record more than I do, and I went into this hoping actually I was going to rank it higher than I did. It just didn't happen. I gave FX a 0. I wanted to give Changes a 0, but for that Mellotron part, I probably would have. Snowblind. A lot of people love Snowblind. For me, I did 3.5 stars. The second half of the record, from Cornucopia to the end, it's kind of mundane. Nothing really jumps out at me. I think the guitar sound on the record is flat and dull. It doesn't help that the title of the record is even generic. The cover's generic. I think the songs, for the most part, are generic. This is just one Sabbath album I just really can't wrap my arms around.
You know, you mentioned
I've tried.
You mentioned Snowblind, which always gets name checked, and I gave Snowblind 2.5, and my little note just says boring, solo at end good, repetitive, and it is. It's just kind of this repetitive thing. The solos,
the solo, the end. That's the best part of the song is the ending of it, the outro solo. I gave it 3.5 stars. So it's just, for me, Supernaut is like way up here. And everything else is just kind of like here, and there's the low points are really bad. Like FX and Changes are, Changes is a horrible song, awful.
Yeah, I don't like it at all.
And FX, it's nothing. So I gave it a 0. So not a good record.
Travis, any other thoughts on 4?
Yes. Well, here's the weird thing about it. This is one of the first Sabbath albums I got after I got Black Sabbath. I think this one might have been the third one I got, and to me, and that also had to do with the fact that sometimes, Black Sabbath was definitely not popular in 1996. So if I go to the record store and they have Paranoid and Volume 4, I'm going to pick up Volume 4 because I haven't heard most of these, And at the time, I loved the album. I have distinct memories in gym class of running around the track and singing Wheels of Confusion.
Really?
Because it's so unique. And I'm going, here's this heavy band with Iron Man and War Pigs and singing about these dark things. And then Wheels of Confusion is that kind of, it almost sounds like, not quite soft rock, but Ozzy has some pretty good melodies in that. And I like the guitar riffs and stuff, but overall, that's a 3.0 for me because it's just like, it's not representative of Sabbath. I think it's a good song. Anything over 2.5 is good in my mind. But Tomorrow's Dream, I apologize, Brian. That's a 2.0 for me. I've never gotten into that one. Changes 1.0. I agree. I mean, I have no zeros on this entire, out of their entire discography. I do have a couple more ones after that. In FX, maybe I should have actually given that a 0, but I gave it a 1. Regardless, you're going to see this is one of my lowest rated albums.
Yeah.
Supernaut, I only gave a 4. I like it. It's definitely like one of their better ones. Hearing Ozzy sing "The Dish That Ran Away with the Spoon," though, it's a little weird. Now I gotta disagree with you guys about Snowblind, though. I think that's a 4.5. I have no 5s on this album. That's the closest one. I love the riff. I love the groove. Even though it's a song about cocaine, the lyrics are so they're just so eloquently written that
it's very visceral.
And I'm literally
visceral.
Envisioning trees covered with snow and this guy maybe having an internal struggle about something or whatever. The ending part, my eyes are blind, but I can see the snowflakes freezing me. That's super beautiful. The solo's great. Cornucopia and Under the Sun, when I first heard those, I was like, oh, the heaviness, and it couldn't hold up to the original hype that I gave it, for the reasons I said earlier. Laguna Sunrise, I think is a pretty good instrumental, though. And then Saint Vitus Dance. Did you guys mention that one yet?
Yeah. 2.5.
I want to know your thoughts, because I probably was a little too kind, but I gave this a 3.5.
I gave it a 3.
I gave it a 2.5.
It's so unique, and a lot of these on here are unique, but that one is so unique that I'm going, there's something about this, and it is concise. It's 2 minutes and 30 seconds long.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going, going back to the Paranoid thing, if people are, Paranoid. Well, if you want to look at something that is unrepresentative of Black Sabbath's catalog, I'd rather hear Saint Vitus Dance than Paranoid.
I actually agree with that. Yeah, I do agree with that.
Last thing I'll say is I can't remember if it's this album, but reading Geezer Butler's book that was just released a couple months ago, I think it was this album where Geezer was just like, yeah, Tony was really struggling coming up with riffs.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, really that early on? Because everybody's like, oh, he's a riff master. He literally has like days worth of tapes of just riffs he's coming up with. And it's kind of crazy that
they were also just bombed out of their minds when they made this record too. That's the thing. They were just loaded.
Yeah.
This was the height of their addiction when they did this record.
Yeah. So the influence of drugs, cocaine specifically, probably had an impact on that ability to,
And then
there are some good riffs. I agree that the main riff in Snowblind is really good. It's just too monotonous. But the riff in Supernaut is one of his best. That's just a slick groove to that riff that I just that's again the high water mark on the album because that riff for me.
Now, to me, again, this is like just a pole vault move from Volume 4 into Sabbath Bloody Sabbath, and I think that's pretty much conventional wisdom amongst Sabbath fans. But on Sabbath Bloody Sabbath, this is such a strong record, and I had a really hard time rating this because part of me just wanted to go 5, 5, 5, straight through. And it's like, the way I look at things, it's like if I think a song's a 5, I'll give it a 5. And sometimes I might look at a song and go, why did I give that a 4.5 and not a 5? And part of that kind of depends on the mood that you're in when you're listening to it, I guess. But the songs that I would say are consistently like the go-to songs for me on this are, of course, the title track, Sabbath Bloody Sabbath. National Acrobat, I think, is just absolutely fantastic. And I love Sabracadabra. If I had to pick 3 from that album, and I hate to say it because I love like Spiral Architect as well, and Looking for Today is great, and Killing Yourself to Live is great, but National Acrobat and Sabracadabra, those two, and then the title track. Those are my absolute must have tracks on this record. But
okay, may I?
yeah.
All right, so you said I'm not sure I could wanted to go just 5 5 5 5 5. Well, I pretty much did for the most part, with the exception of 3 tracks. So here are my 5-star songs: the title track, National Acrobat, Fluff. Yes, Fluff is a 5-star song, and I'll fight anybody who says otherwise. Looking for Today is a 5-star song, and Spiral Architect. So those five songs for me are just absolute must-haves. Sabracadabra I gave 4, and Killing Yourself to Live and Who Are You I gave 3. So this album is a monster piece. This album is fantastic. It's where they really start to introduce what we would now today talk about as prog into some of their writing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
With we've never heard up to this point nothing like Spiral Architect.
Yeah.
Nothing like Fluff. Travis has talked about some songs that really are not representative of the Sabbath sound, Fluff being one of them, but it's such a beautiful instrumental.
Yeah.
Such really delicate guitar playing. When you compare that with like the sledgehammer riff that ends the title track. Yeah. It's such an awesome pairing, and there's a lot of really good diversity in this record. For the low point for me would be Who Are You, which is just weird. But it's still cool because it's different. Different is not always good or bad, but in this case, it's a good kind of different. It's a song. There's no other song in their canon that's like this. So
yeah, I agree. That's the lowest ranking song for me, also, but I still like it. I think it's cool.
Right. So the low points on this record are still quite good. So top to bottom, this is a masterpiece. This record is, like Brian said, a pole vault from volume 4 to this. This is a quantum leap, and they hit a home run with this record. This record is absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, Travis.
And the cover and the back cover.
Oh God, the cover art is just incredible. Yeah.
Just everything about this record, perfection. Yeah. Love it.
Yeah, the cover art definitely that adds to it. I mean, their cover art since Black Sabbath has been pretty weak, although Master of Reality for the effect that they were going for, I think that was pretty cool, just the simplicity. But this is definitely the greatest cover art since Black Sabbath. I agree for the most part, although I think you guys are being a little too kind in my mind. But with that said, I don't have any songs below a 3.0, and Fluff I have it at 3.0. It's a beautiful song. It doesn't really segue into Sabracadabra in my mind, but so wait, I'm not saying it's bad. You don't need to fight me, okay?
We won't fight. We'll just have a gentlemanly disagreement about Fluff. That's all.
Yeah. It's still good. It's still definitely above average. I love how I believe Live Evil, that's the outro music, is Fluff, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So that's kind of what I think of. Sabbath Bloody Sabbath is a bit overplayed in my mind, and I ended up giving that a 3.5. And I don't know, the main riff, I've heard some people say, oh, greatest riff of all time, and I'm going, to me, just, I don't know, but I do like the song. 3.5 is still pretty good. National Acrobat, I struggled whether to give that a 5. I ended up giving it a 4.5. And by the way, I should have figured out the YouTube video. There is a YouTube video of just a band of dads playing at a backyard party. They literally look like they just, got done mowing the lawn or something. They're just wearing jean shorts, and the singer does not look like a rock and roll vocalist. I'll leave it at that. They nail the song.
I'll have to find that.
Sounds like Bill Ward. The vocalist sounds like Ozzy. And they're not a tribute band or anything. They're just a bunch of dads that are just like, oh, dude, you want to play National Acrobat? And they nail it. Sabracadabra, here's the thing about songs like that. I gave it a 3.5. It's a great song. I always hate the lyrics that start with something like, I feel so good, I feel so fine. Come on, just sing something about a deep bodies burning in red ashes. You haven't used that one yet, just put that in there. I don't know. But it's good. It's a little too upbeat to reach the echelons, so to speak. Killing Yourself to Live, I first heard on Live at Last. That was another $2 bin purchase. Crappy recording or whatever. So when I got this, I was like, oh, I can finally hear the studio version. And I loved it, especially the last part. But since then, it's like, I don't know, it just didn't hold up as much. I'll come back to Who Are You? Looking for Today 4.0. I don't have, I almost feel like I should rank it higher because I don't have anything bad to say about it. Maybe it's that it leads into Spiral Architect, which is a 5.0 song. It's, and like Brent said, I mean, this is prog. This is what, like, I hear that and I'm going, it doesn't really represent Sabbath up to this point, but it begins to represent where Sabbath goes after this in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And it is a beautiful song. I never really gave it the time of day until the Reunion album came out. And I'm like, Spiral Architect, why'd they put this one on there? And it's so weird because I can't tell you why I didn't like this song when I first heard it, when I was 15 years old or whatever. But then I hear it on Reunion. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'll listen to this. And I'm going, wait a minute, last thing I will say though, you guys are a little harsh on Who Are You? But
I gave it a 3. I gave it a 3.
Give it a 3.
Okay, all right. I gave it a 4.5.
Ah.
And going back to that theatricality that I love, let me show you this. I don't know if you can see this. It's poorly lit.
Pull it back a bit.
Here, actually, I wonder if I take it out. Well, this is that? Anyway, it's called Eternal Masters. Maybe I should. I'll put my cell phone flashlight on it. But anyway, Eternal Masters, Black Sabbath tribute album. This has some. That doesn't help at all.
No.
Okay. Anyway, I love tribute albums, even though I don't even listen to them that much. There's just something about hearing other people's takes on these songs. And with this one, it's weird. You know, you got the tribute albums where they just basically play the song as Sabbath-like as they can, or they do it in their own style, but that's only just slightly different from Sabbath. This one has, there's one where like a better version of Changes on this one called Masters of Misery, where it's like a Doom version of Changes, and it's not great, but it's better than Black Sabbath's version. This one has a band called Old, which apparently, it's gothic sounding. It does the riff, the keyboards. Now instead of singing, they're going, yes, I know the secrets. And I don't mind that stuff. I like black metal and whatever, but I had not heard the original Who Are You? I heard this one and I'm going, I got to hear just how they changed that song because this version's cool. So I want to hear Black Sabbath's version. Well, it sounds pretty much the same, except Ozzy's singing it instead of raspy, whatever. And it kind of blew me away. And it also kind of blew me away to know that that's one of the few songs that Ozzy actually wrote the lyrics for.
Yeah, I guess that's true, isn't it?
And the keyboard riff. Now they say, Bill Ward's like, oh yeah, he pretty much wrote the entire song. I was like, well, he couldn't. Maybe he wrote the main riff repetitive and the lyrics, and then they came in and added more. I don't think he could do much more than that. But for what it's worth, that song is theatrical. It's weird. I love it. And it's the second highest rated, ties National Acrobat, not as good as Spiral Architect in my mind.
Wow.
And I don't have a lot of nice things to say about Ozzy, but I'll always give him credit where credit is due. And I love Who Are You?
Wow. Cool.
One other thing too, we should point out that Rick Wakeman from Yes played keyboards on this record.
Yeah. And his son later went on to play with Black Sabbath on their last gasp tour, as I call it. So
cool. All right. Sabotage. I always thought in my mind Sabotage, and I need to get that version of it, darn it. But the to me, in my mind, I always thought of South Bloody Sabbath and Sabotage as a pairing, companion albums. And to me, the low point on Sabotage is Am I Going Insane?
100%.
It's okay. I can listen to it, but you know, it's not that big a deal.
I don't think it fits at all. It's one of those where they're going for something different, and it's just like, nah, that really kills the momentum.
It does. It's an outlier. I mean, I'm glad it's there because I like to have everything, you know. But you know,
you can throw that in the bin with FX as far as I'm concerned.
But you know, and I just Hole in the Sky is that riff, and you know, I'm not the biggest fan of Ozzy's voice, but he sounds just amazing, honestly, on Hole in the Sky, on the studio recording of it. And I mean, Symptom of the Universe, how do you go wrong with that? And honestly, Megalomania, you know, Symptom of the Universe always gets name checked, and it should. I think it's a 5-star song. I think Hole in the Sky is a 5-star song. I think Megalomania is a 5-star song. I love Megalomania.
I agree.
Absolutely love that song. And it's not that it goes downhill really from there. I mean, I think Thrill of It All is a solid 4. Super Czar is, I give it a 3.5, just because I mean, it's like, in a way it's 5-star, but it does kind of just go on and on a little bit. But it's really, I think it's really cool. The Rit's good, but Megalomania and Symptom of the Universe, Hole in the Sky, those are my top picks.
What about Don't Start Too Late, though? I mean, how does that fit in between Hole in the Sky and Symptom of the Universe?
I think it's actually a really cool segue. I think it works really well. I gave it a 4.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I agree for the most part. Sabotage, going into this, I'm like, Sabotage it's one of my favorites. It's one of my top 3. And it was interesting to see how it rated, you know, because we've talked about that. It's like, well, once you rate all the songs and you average them, is it still top 3? I guess we'll figure out at the end. But Hole in the Sky, 5.0. Perfect way to start the album. Symptom of the Universe, 5.0. And I struggled, but only literally for about 20 seconds with Don't Start Too Late. Because I'm going, all right, with my own sort of matrix that I've matrices or rubric, how does it segue? I think it segues pretty good. I don't love the instrumental in and of itself, but here's the thing. I personally can't really hear the riff to Symptom of the Universe in my head without hearing the ba-da-da-dum, ba-da-da-dum, da-da-da. And I go, you know what? If I'm going with this sort of rubric I set up, I got to give it a 5.0, because I rarely listen to Hole in the Sky or Symptom of the Universe without Don't Start Too Late.
That makes sense. Yeah.
You know, that could be one 10-minute track, and I think it would fit in, you know, perfectly with the rest of the album, with the theme. I mean, I don't know. It's Megalomania, I probably should have given a 5. I gave a 4.5. It is near perfect. I think the only thing about it is, with me, it does kind of, maybe it drags a little bit. So it's not what I would necessarily put on all the time. But that riff at the end,
oh man,
you know, I mean, and once again, theatricality. I'm a broken record here. You can't get more theatrical or prog than that. Thrill of All, I love, 3.5. Super Czar, that I gave a 3.5. I think I was a little kind to that, but that was used so much for their intro tapes that and videos. I think there's a video I have of theirs where it's just kind of a cheesy intro where it shows, you know, Ozzy Osbourne, Tony Iommi, and it's like slow motion, and they use Super Czar. So it's like, yeah. Am I Going Insane? 1.0. We don't even talk about it. It sucks. It's bullshit. Take it off the album and you have a near perfect album. And then the Rit, 5.0. It's prog. I can't believe I found out in Geezer's book that Ozzy actually wrote the lyrics to that.
Oh, I know.
Those lyrics are actually really profound when, you know, when you think about
the legal problems that they were going through and stuff. Yeah.
And it's one of those where it's like, it's pretty blunt, but you can also sort of, you know, this is a person frustrated with someone that has control over them. It doesn't need to be like a lawyer situation.
Right.
You know, and like, ladies digging gold from you, will they still dig now you're through? And it's so angry, you know.
It's funny you mentioned that too, because as a kid listening to this for the first time, it's like, what the heck's a writ?
Yeah.
I didn't know what a writ was. I didn't know any legal jargon at all. Not that I know a whole lot of it now, but I mean, but yeah, Brent, what are you?
Well, this album, like you said, it's a natural continuation from Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath, and this record is off the charts. So 5-star songs for me: Hole in the Sky, Symptom of the Universe, Megalomania, Thrill of It All, The Writ, right there. Each one of them 5. Don't Start, I give that a 3, basically because I look at it like I think you guys do as the intro to Symptom of the Universe. And Travis made an interesting comment. I can't really hear Symptom of the Universe without hearing that intro or Don't Start. So I give that a 3. I would have given Superstar a higher rating than a 3 if it had been a little bit shorter. It does kind of drag on a little bit, but I do like what it is, so I gave that a 3. I was probably too kind to Am I Going Insane? I gave that a 2.5. I probably could have given it a 2 or even lower than that. And this is an example of how a song like that can really drag down an overall album rating. Because if you were to take that song off this album, this might be one of my highest rated Sabbath records. It's still one of my favorites. It always will be. I think Ozzy's vocals on Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath, and Sabotage are some of the best that he ever did. I mean, he's hitting notes that I don't think anybody's ever hit notes like that before then, maybe not even since then. I mean, like about Rob Halford's great range with Judas Priest. Ozzy had a pretty good set of pipes back then to hit some of these helium, high octane. These are like stratospheric notes that he's hitting on some of these songs. It's incredible. And I'm not a super huge fan of Ozzy's voice. I recognize it as being distinct, and it's really a big, important part of the original Sabbath sound. But I think he really shines on this record. So for me, this is again another almost perfect record. But with five just monstrous 5-star songs, and one of you guys talked about mentioned the anger in the Writ. There's anger in Tony's playing on this record. It's just the guitar tone is unearthly on this record. It's an incredible listening experience all the way through. Love it.
I to your point about Am I Going Insane? Like, I want to hear a band's, whatever they come up with. I want to hear it.
Right, I do too.
I think it's an interesting point about like the flow of an album, because this would be a better album if it wasn't there. And it's kind of like, it would be, to me, it'd be better as like sort of like bonus track or an outtake kind of thing, something that's on a compilation. It's like, well, this, because it's kind of sore thumb material. It just kind of sticks out. Now, again, would I rather have it not be there? No. I just rather have it maybe in another format. Like, if you were sitting there at kind of in a producer role and you're thinking about like the scope of the album, the totality of it, the sequencing and the flow of it, it's like, this probably doesn't.
Well, one thing I will say about it is the end of Am I Going Insane does flow nicely into the beginning. That slow,
you're
right.
That's pretty cool.
You're right. And that maybe that's why I gave it a 2.5, because of that. That's because I'm looking at it going, I don't really know if it's a 2.5, but that may be why.
Well, I would just prefer that it be a better song, but it's not.
Well,
so I think we all agree it's the weak link on the record. It's the weak link on an outstanding record.
Yeah.
And I
love the cover. There are some people that don't like the cover. I love the cover.
I actually do.
Dude, Bill Ward's pants? Come on.
I love the whole.
That's what I love about it. If you look close enough, you can see his underwear through there, I think. Yeah, on the back cover.
It's great. It's great.
Well, here's the other thing about Am I Going Insane? That was another 90% written by Ozzy song. I don't know if you guys knew that.
Yeah. I think I knew that.
So I don't know if they were just like, Ozzy, dude, who are you? That was great. He's like, oh, I got another one. It's like, no, one time's a charm, Ozzy, one time.
That'll do.
I was actually just reading about this cover though, and they were just like, we're gonna do. I think it was like Bill Ward's drum tech did like graphic design or whatever. He's like, we're gonna do some test stuff, like wear black clothes, and they didn't, and like Geezer and Tony were just wearing what they wore. Bill Ward wore his wife's tights, and then I think Ozzy wore his like wife's dress or something like that.
Yeah.
I do love that it's just, you look at that and you're going, that's weird.
Mm-hmm.
That's and it's that they've sabotaged the mirror. I mean, I don't think it's the greatest album cover of all time, but the concept is cool, and it's like definitely props for trying something different. You know,
Yeah.
you just look at
I
it.
love it, and I've heard people criticize it. I've heard people criticize it and say, "Well, it has nothing to do with the album title." Who cares? I don't care. Does the cover of Love Gun have anything to do with the title of the album? No.
No, and honestly, I'm thankful that it doesn't.
Yes, yeah, but it's a great cover, right? And so I just, like Travis said, I love just the whole mirror thing, and it's kind of like, it's a weird cover. It's kind of a weird record, but it works. It's got it so good.
I do think it actually does have to do with the album title, though, because the mirror, they've been like, the mirror has been sabotaged, so it doesn't reflect the correct way or whatever. And then that's the whole theme of the album with the writ. You know, they've been sabotaged as a band. So yeah, I think it fits.
I actually agree. I had never really thought of it that way, but I like the way I like your interpretation of it. That's cool.
I'll go with that.
Yeah.
All right. So we're gonna do the countdown.
Yeah, let's do a countdown here. Okay, so we got the first 6 Sabbath records. We're gonna go from number 6 down to number 1, correct?
Okay, so the worst to the best.
Yeah, yep. worst to best.
Okay.
Okay, so I like to hold these up. Do you have copies in front of you, Travis, for all?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. So, all right, here we go. In the number 6 slot, for you want to do this simultaneously?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, here we go. Boom. Wow. Okay, we agree on that. Yep. Volume
50,
4. Wow.
54%. 54% is what I gave that record.
I had 52%.
Okay.
I didn't do it by percentage. I just did the overall average of rating, but I gave that one 2.9. So whatever.
Okay. So if you want to go with a star average, I had 2.6.
Oh, okay.
So
wow.
2.5 stars.
I had 2.7.
So I tend to round it when doing by stars. So you did 2.9.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it's basically almost just barely under a 3-star album, which is okay, right?
Yeah, it's Black Sabbath,
right? So. Yeah, okay. And then in the number 5 slot.
Oh, wait! Oh! I got the wrong one. That almost could have been disastrous. Okay, here we go. In the number 5 slot.
You ready?
Ooh.
Oh.
66.25%.
That's funny because as far as a percentage, I gave this 60, the debut 66, but to me it's a 3.3 star album's a 3 if I rounded it, depending if you round up or round down, 3.3 be like 3.5 star.
Mine was 3.3 stars for Paranoid.
Yeah. Okay.
Mine was, I rounded to the 100, so I got 3.38.
Okay.
So wow, we're
all right.
Okay.
I do too. I go to the 100th. Mine was 3.31.
Okay. All right.
Next.
Number 4, the number 4 slot.
80%, 4 stars right here.
Okay.
This to me was about 1/10 of a point difference from the debut. Like these could have really switched, so really in a sense we're really kind of aligned with this pretty well.
Although I love the debut a lot more than there's a 14-point gap for me between Paranoid.
Oh wow. See, in terms of placement we're pretty similar, but in terms of the gap between them we're not. Then that's interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I gave the debut 4 stars, 80%.
All right. Number 3.
Let's see.
82.5. This is 82.5%.
Wow.
4.13 stars.
Yeah. I gave this 3.75 stars.
Oh, wow. Man, Brian, you're harsh. Brent, I think, well, you and I 4.13 for this one.
Wow.
That's
Yeah,
what I have.
I think, you know what happened though, this was the one where I, for whatever reason, when I was rating it, I just couldn't quite get to 5 on, but I'm looking at it and I'm like, after forever, I could give that a 5, you know, on any other given day. So, which just goes to show, you know, we're trying to quantify qualitative stuff, and it's got flaws. It's not a perfect, and if anybody thinks this is a perfect system, we understand it's not. Okay.
Yeah, we're just having fun with it.
And then the number 2. Ooh.
83.75%, 4.19 stars.
Wow. 4 stars. 4 stars right here.
3.94 for Sabotage.
Wow.
For Sabbath Bloody Sabbath.
For Sabbath Bloody Sabbath. And then that leaves us, of course, with the number 1. For me, it is Sabbath Bloody Sabbath, and Travis, for you, it's going to be Sabotage then.
For me, it is 87.5%, 4.38 stars. This came out on top. If you would have asked me before we did the first 6 albums what I predicted my favorite would be, I would have predicted Sabotage. I was wrong.
This is hard for me because number 1 and number 2, there's only a 2.5% difference, which comes down to, you know, how am I feeling about that song on a particular day. These are really, these 2 really, really close. And then I would have predicted that the debut would have come in higher than Paranoid, but it didn't. So my ranking is pretty close to what I would have expected, but not exactly. Yeah.
Well, with me, Sabotage, here's something interesting. 4.06. But if you would have taken out Am I Going Insane? 4.5. I mean, so I guess that's 90%, I guess, you know. But 4.06, and yeah, that's, I think I did well. Not to give it away. Wait a minute, did I just screw up?
No, did you?
Okay, what the hell? I think I did. I think I did. Yeah, I think I got Master of Reality at number what? Okay. See, I don't like math. I don't like math. I choose not to do it in my daily life, so you have made me do something that I'm not comfortable with. So I got Sabbath Bloody Sabbath 3.94. I got Master of Reality at 4.13. Did I get that right? Yeah. Okay, Master of Reality actually comes in I fucked it all up. It's my language. Master of Reality comes in ahead of Sabotage, thanks to Am I Going Insane bullshit.
Oh, I get you. Okay, yeah.
And I guess that comes in ahead of Sabbath Bloody Sabbath. So it should have been Master of Reality at number 1, 4.13, Sabotage number 2, 4.06, Sabbath Bloody Sabbath 3.94, Black Sabbath 3.7, Paranoid 3.38.
Wow. So
okay.
what it's all right. When I put these up, I timestamped them, so I'll put a little timestamp for Travis's corrections.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. So yeah. Okay. Cool. So the next Sabbath episode, you know, we're all on board for that, right? And that'll go the last part of Ozzy's original tenure. So it'll go Technical Ecstasy, Never Say Die, into the Dio era with Heaven and Hell, Mob Rules, and then into Born Again with Ian Gillan, Seventh Star with Glenn Hughes, and then the first one with Tony Martin. So 7 albums up to Eternal Idol, right?
Yeah, this is their influx period where things have changed drastically. It's unfortunate that Dave Walker never recorded with them, because then we could talk about his 3-week stint with the band. Which, by the way, there is video and/or sound of Dave Walker's one appearance with Black Sabbath after Ozzy left, after Technical Ecstasy.
Wow. Okay, so don't make note of that for episode 2, because that Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, there's audio of him doing Junior's Eyes, I believe.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Different lyrics, different melodies.
Wow. I don't know
Yeah.
if I've ever heard that. So
It's not bad.
all right. Well, tell you what,
Not great.
if anybody out there has been bored enough to sit through this, we really appreciate it. Subscribe and ring the little bell thing for notifications. Also, if you're a big Sabbath fan and you think we're touched in the head here about these rankings and stuff, feel free to comment. I'll be sure to try to respond to you. In the meantime, in our own little universe, our bass player is a writer. He writes little novels. They're kind of pulp fiction type things, and you know, it's cool stuff that he writes. And we also write and record music. These are plastic things called CDs, but stuff's out on digital as well. Bandcamp. I'll put some links below. I'm in the process of getting the most recent thing with Derek Sherinian on things like iTunes and Apple Music and Spotify, but there's been a glitch with that, but it should be up shortly.
I'm surprised he found time away from Sons of Apollo to
right, no kidding,
perform with you guys.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, I think anybody who listens to Underlords of the Overworld might find that there's some kind of Sabbath influence in some of the guitar riffs.
I try to avoid comparisons myself because
I'm not comparing. I'm just saying there's an influence. That's not a comparison.
Well, that's a good point. Good point. So yeah, at any rate, that's it as far as I'm concerned for part 1 of our Sabbath series here. And anything else from you guys before we
Nope, I'm good.
All right, thanks. Until next time, bye-bye.